right, everybody. It's May 3rd. It's noon. You are here for the May class that I love offering. I love coming in. And once a month, I try and offer a complimentary workshop class. It is also open to the Misfit to Maverick community that I host. So in this call is actually a combination of people. Some of you are Mavericks already in the space. Some of you are joining this month, which is really exciting. Some of you are just part of my email community, and I'm so glad and grateful that you chose to come today. And I hope to make it worth your while. I do these free classes once a month. I encourage you to consider putting on workshops yourself and talks, because they're just really fun ways to connect with people and share your point of view and have something neat to invite people to. How things are going to go today is this. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, especially if you're like kind of new and you're like, who is this person that I chose to spend an hour with today? I'm going to give you, so yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we're going to shift into talking about conversations. I'm going to share with you why I think conversations are so important, what kinds of conversations you can be having, and how to create your own conversation project if that's something that you would like to do. My goal for all of these classes, for every class that I teach, including within Misfit to Maverick, is that you walk away hopefully with one new insight. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, and possibly one next step. Because one of the things about me is I am an activator. I really enjoy learning through doing. You can talk to everybody who's in my classes or in Misfit to Maverick. I'm always like, cool, so what are the next steps? What is the very next thing that you can try? Because I like getting things into motion. I like getting things started. And that kind of leads me into just sharing a little bit about who I am. So I'm Allegra. I live in the Hudson Valley of New York. I have 2 kids and my husband. I like buttered popcorn. I'll make a bowl of buttered popcorn every week and usually snack on that. And I really enjoy a cold IPA craft beer on the weekends around, we'll light a fire in the back. The stuff I talk about with campfires is literally something that I personally really enjoy. I am an ideator. I love ideas, come very naturally to me. I love when people have ideas. I love helping people come up with ideas of things that they could do. And I'm also an activator. Like I said, I like getting things into action. If I'm inspired by something, it's very hard for me to not take action on it. The shadow side of that can be a little bit of ready, fire, aim, but particularly in my coaching partnerships, I am kind of the person on your team who's like, all right, let's figure out what we've got and really build a solid center. And then what is it that we can try next? I'm very driven by values of creativity and curiosity and adventure and diversity. I celebrate and am always looking for what those unique things that set us apart and make us different. And it's actually that awareness that has inspired a lot of the work that I'm doing now, because I don't believe that there's a one size fits all path towards coaching and how your coaching is going to evolve. I don't believe that there's one right way, but I believe that there's a right way for you. And the work that I've been doing over the past year and a half, I guess just backing up a little bit more, I started coaching in 2012. And up until the end of 2019, I was working with what I call regular people, which is code for not coaches. We're all regular people too. We're all very special people, but you know what I mean? Like I said, I was just working with regular people. I wasn't working with coaches. I was out there. I consider the coaching landscape. I think about it. The metaphor I'm always picturing is it's like we're out on trails in the woods and going up mountains and trying new things. And I've been out there for a long time. And as an ideator and an activator, I haven't just thought about stuff a lot. I've done a lot of experimenting. I've tried a lot of different things, from how I deliver my coaching to how I market my coaching. And it really wasn't until the end of 2019, middle of 2019, that I was able to see my work through a totally different lens, because I became certified in a tool called UMAP. I understood for the first time what my unique strengths are. I really hunkered down into the values that I bring into my work and the interests that I bring into my work. And at the beginning of 2020 is when I started to think, I really want to do this work with coaches. Like, I felt very inspired to connect with coaches who were earlier in their journey, and try and share as much as I could, all the things I wish I had known when I began. So it was really just a year and a half ago, which is kind of, is that right? It's kind of crazy to think about. I started a very small high touch coaching program with just 3 coaches called the Niching Compass. I ran that program multiple times just with 3 coaches each. And then one of them was 10 and then 5. I kind of played with it through the summer. And then in October is when I opened up this community that I now run called Misfit to Maverick. There are Maverick coaches here. See you. I love you. You're awesome. And so the UMAP and the Niching Compass now lives within this really incredible base camp, where I am really taking a stand for you deepening your self-awareness around who you are and how you like to work. And also really trying to simplify what actions we could be doing out there to develop and evolve and for our work to emerge. So that's just kind of like general backstory. There's more about that. There's some things on my YouTube channel about the story of Misfit to Maverick if you want to hear the details. But as far as just like quick little announcements, and this is really the only time I'll speak about it, Misfit to Maverick has been closed since March. It is currently open. It opened today, and there are 12 spots available for this next round. The reason why I'm limiting the spots is because I'm introducing a new experience with this enrollment. It's called Maverick Cohorts. And it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about it. I did not send those details out this morning because I just wanted it to be about the class, but I will be sending an email out this afternoon. And if you'd like to consider joining in and snagging one of those spots, yeah, the deadline to join is either Sunday, a week from now, or when the spots fill, whichever come first. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that at the end if we still have time. Okay, great. That's all the little announcements and yeah, little nuts and bolts. All right, you ready to talk about conversations? Because that's why you all came. All right. Before I get started, it is very important for me to say this. What I am about to share with you is my point of view. It is the understanding that I have come to from my own experience and from having worked with, I was thinking about this morning, over 100 coaches now over this past year and a half, listening and learning and supporting and mentoring and coaching as much as I can to help them get into action on their work and to really relax into their coaching and start having fun again. I am not about to tell you the right way to do things. There is no right way to do things, but there is a right way for you. I do not have a magic bullet. I do not have a proven system. I don't know what the right fit is going to be for all of you. What I'm trying to do is present to you an alternative to what I call the narrative coming out of the coaching industrial complex, which you've likely heard me talk about. So I don't know if any of you cook, but there are like some chefs out there that give you cookbooks, where what they do is they give you like a base recipe, and then they invite you to make it your own. And that's kind of what I'm going to do today. I'm going to share this idea I have about conversation projects. I want you to listen for what you hear, because what you hear is what is going to stick. I coach for insight, your insight. And if your insight at the end of this is like, this isn't for me, then that's great, because I'm here for your clarity. I'm not here to convince you of anything or to tell you, hey, this is how you should do it. There is no should here, but I'm taking a stand for something different, kind of a different approach. I'm trying to mix things up because it's what I wish I had heard when I was beginning. Because when I got started, I immediately my coaching got consumed by the business of coaching. And I want to help you keep your coaching ahead of you and the priority of your work, which is why we're going to talk about conversations. Because I believe that your people will tell you everything that you need to know. Your people will tell you everything you need to know. Your people are going to tell you what problems you can solve. Your people are going to tell you what words they use to describe how things are going for them. Your people will tell you what to call your programs. The workshops that I've led have been named because of words that people have said to me when I've been talking to them in conversation. So let's talk a little bit about why conversations. Now remember what I want you all to take away from this. An insight, something that just comes from in here and you're like, oh my gosh. And a next step. For those of you Mavericks, open up those logbooks, get it down after class because I want you to record it. All right. So here's my trusty whiteboard, and I'm actually going to be sharing a screen here. I have a few slides, but that's all right. I'll just get those ready to go. Okay. So this is my trusty whiteboard. I love whiteboards. I like whiteboards. I also like drawing pads. This is like my fancy analog way of sharing information, but I do have some slides here today. So here's why I think conversations are so important. Here's you, and here's your coaching. Coaching happens in conversation. Either a conversation between you and a person or you and a small group of people. So this is where conversations are happening. Now, how those conversations happen, whether they're over Zoom or on the phone while you're on a hike together, whether you're walking around the track at school, whether you're riding motorcycles from one spot to the next or in a kayak, whether you're sending letters or postcards back and forth, there's a dialogue, there's something that happens between you and this other person. And so I think that conversations are the currency of coaching. If you have a different idea, if you want to put something else on the table, I am all ears. But I've come to understand that conversations are the currency of coaching. If you want to become a pro tennis player, you play a lot of tennis, right? You just start hitting tennis balls and you practice one stroke and then another and then another. If you want to open a bakery, you start by baking a lot of stuff in your kitchen. Baking is the currency, right? Becoming a baker. Playing tennis is the currency of becoming a tennis player. Making art, a lot of messy art is the currency of becoming an artist and a professional artist. Conversations are the currency of coaching. You want to get better at coaching? You got to be coaching, right? You want to figure out your point of view. You want to discover your voice. You want to practice your craft. You got to be in conversation. What I see happening, which I think you all know, and I'm repeating myself if you've been reading some of my notes, is it what I call the coaching industrial complex, which is just a message. It's like a fog bank. It's not a person or a thing. It's just this thing that rolls in, injects itself between you and talking to people. And I call that everything but coaching. Here's wanting to talk to people and practice your craft and have conversations. But before, the minute you get your certification, if not before you get your certification, there is a message that if you want to coach, you first must what? And I've done this before, but I'm going to do it again. Enter what comes up for you, please, in the chat. Use the chat liberally during these calls, please. I forgot to say that. Before you can start talking to people, you first must what? There it is. 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 Boom, boom, boom. Before you can do the thing that you signed up to do, you've got to first do all these things. Just read the chat. I don't have to write it all down. The first thing, I got my coaching certification. My coaching certification had no business building stuff, but I came out of it going, now what? I was marketed to, oh, you want to build a business? Join this program, pay thousands of dollars, do all this stuff. Pick a niche, build a website, figure out a funnel, do social media, and on and on and on. And my life and my brain became about this. And I became convinced that if I wanted to get paid, I had to do this. And that if I wanted to help people, I had to do this. I have to be really clear about something though, and this is super, super important. I do not have a beef with everything but coaching. I don't know if any of you watched the video that I put out a couple days ago on YouTube. I don't take issue with things like niching and social media and website. I believe they're valuable tools. I believe there are incredible teachers and providers in that space. Some of my mentors and teachers are brilliant at talking about niche. Tad Hargrave, he's a guest teacher in the Misfits into the Niching Compass course. He does amazing work around marketing. Seth Godin, amazing work around marketing. I know designers and developers and people who are helping you find your voice, all in this space. I don't have a problem with it. The problem that I have, that isn't the right way, it's just the perspective I'm bringing, is that the order's screwed up. Or at the very least, we are all being told that we can't talk to people. Talk to people. We can't help them unless we've done all this stuff, which we didn't sign up for. I didn't sign up to become a web designer. I signed up to help people and to have conversations. So what I want to encourage, I was thinking about this picture is that, if we're looking at a timeline, there's there's everything but coaching, and then there's talking to people. The video that I put out kind of moved this whole chunk over here. I was like, what if we did all this stuff first? This morning, I was thinking about it. At the very least, do it at the same time. At the very least, you can be thinking about everything but coaching while you are talking to people. Okay? They can both be happening at the same time. Because here's what's really cool about why these conversations are so important in regards, like in the context of our marketing and stuff, is that when you talk to people, it helps you with all of this everything but coaching stuff. And I'm going to show you what happens when you have conversations with people, the kinds of things you can figure out. You want to figure out what, a web designer. So what problem do you solve? Gosh, I don't know. Go talk to people. Ask them what problems they have and which ones you'd like to help them work on. Right? What are the keywords your people say? Gosh, I don't know. I guess I gotta think about it. No, you don't. Go start talking to people. Ask them, because your people will tell you everything that you need to know. Let me just show you really quick the picture that I drew today. You ready? This is why I think conversations are great. And I was like, I'm going to put it in my slides. Stand by. Stand by, everybody, for slide. Can I do this here? I think I can. I can't. All right. Close your eyes for 1 second if you don't want to see both of them together, just while I click present here. Okay, you can look. So this is us before we start talking to people. Here's you, this awesome human with all these great things. And guess what? Your brain is totally full of all these things. Oh my gosh, what do I do? What problem do I solve? What am I going to coach about? What's my niche? All these things. Guess what happens when you talk to people? Everything gets clearer. When you start having conversations, all of that stuff that gets jumbled up in your brain actually gets really super clear. And I'm going to tell you again some of the things that you can uncover by having conversations with people. But I was like, it's like a big mess in our head, and we all just sit around imagining and thinking and wondering and worrying when we could be out there having conversations. All right. So let me share with you now the 4 different kinds of conversations that you can be having. And then I'm going to open up for questions. If at any time while I'm talking, you have a question, please post it in the chat. And please, before it, put the word question. I'm singing. Shout out to Julie. Okay, so you're going to put the word question and what your question is, or you can raise your hand. And I will, after I share with you the 4 different types of conversations, I'm going to come back and take those questions. And then I'm going to tell you how to start one of these on your own. Ready? Okay, great. The 4 different kinds of conversations are this. And I'm going to start from the back and move forward. The first type of conversation that we all want to be having all the time is a coaching conversation. This is what we wish our calendar was full of. Just want to be coaching all the time, right? I just want to be coaching. I just want to coach. Coaching conversations. This is where you are delivering your work. I also call these experiences. You may have seen this word floating around. Those in Misfit to Maverick have heard me talk about this a lot. A coaching experience. Boop, sorry. This might be paid, it might be unpaid. Paid or unpaid. This, what we are doing right now, is a coaching experience that I chose to not get paid for. Because I like doing unpaid coaching experiences, because I like to meet people and introduce you to me and my work and hopefully help you out. Okay, so, but I also have paid coaching experiences. Misfit to Maverick, the mastermind we run, those are paid coaching experiences with me. Right? So over time, I figured out my coaching experience. This is where you deliver your coaching, where you're saying, hey, I am in this role and I'm going to help you move to whatever it is you're looking for. Depending on how you set up your coaching. And again, this is where I'm just giving you a base recipe. You're going to make it your own. Okay. This isn't the right way. It's just kind of how things flow together. Depending on how you run your work and how you like to connect with people, before a coaching conversation, you very well might have a discovery call conversation. Discovery call conversation. That's the second type of conversation that we can be having. And I'm going to share, I have a slide to show some ideas about a discovery call. I've done a podcast about discovery calls. Discovery calls could be an entire class. Okay. How to do discovery calls is something that you are going to figure out through practice over time. Let me just share a few little thoughts about discovery calls if they help. I'm going to be sending you all these slides, by the way. You don't have to write everything down. You can if you would like, but they will come back. I'm going to send the replay out tomorrow and you'll get all these. Discovery call conversations, or some people call them sales calls, some people call them mini sessions, some people call them chemistry calls, whatever you want to call them. There's this understanding in these kinds of conversations that you're going to be talking about the possibility of working together. Someone's like, oh, do you coach? What do we do? Oh, let's have a discovery call and find out. Let's talk first before we decide if this is a good fit. And that's really how I've always approached discovery call conversations. I'm not trying to sell anybody coaching. If you said to me, I talked to a couple of you, hey, can we talk about Misfit to Maverick? I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to just see if it's a fit. And if it's a fit, great. And if it's not a fit, also great. Okay, so that's just my kind of approach and intention around discovery calls. But again, there is an art and a style to your discovery calls that you're going to learn, and with practice and with time. There are Mavericks in Misfit to Maverick who are like, man, I've been doing discovery calls. This is working. This isn't working. Let me try again. There is no one right way to these, but there is a right way for you. But I just want to put that out there, that this is another kind of conversation that you can be having. Now, this is a fun fact. Discovery call conversations can evolve out of interview conversations, which is one of the next types that I'm going to tell you about. Any questions about either discovery calls, conversations, or coaching conversations? Feel free to post them in the chat. Okay, great. Post all your questions anytime. I put a line here, and I put this line here because when I'm coaching, I'm like, if I have discovery calls, I'm going to get clients. Like, to me, discovery calls felt like, I knew some people were going to say no, but some people were going to say yes. I was really excited to practice discovery calls. I was like, man, I just want to fill my calendar with discovery calls so that I can practice talking about coaching and finding out if it's a fit and what's my style and making proposals and saying a number out loud, all the things. This is a very big practice zone for all coaches. Okay. But again, on a regular day, I'm like, well, how do I do that? How do I get people to sign up for discovery calls? And that's where the everything but coaching, the coaching industrial complex comes in. Oh, you want discovery calls? Just build a funnel. Just build a program, build a funnel, get a social media following, do this, do that, set up your then you can talk to people and have discovery calls. Way too complicated for me. So I'm going to share with you now 2 other kinds of conversations that you could start having today. That's going to get you talking to people and why you should make it happen. I'm going to jump. Hi, Karen. I see you. I'm going to jump all the way over here now to one that I just came up with actually a few months ago that I was like, oh, this is a really cool one. And again, you could be doing it today. Over here are what I call explanation conversations. Explanation. Explanation conversations. I'm just going to make sure everyone's muted here really quick. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, thanks everyone. Explanation conversations are exactly what you think they are. Explanation conversations are for those of you who feel maybe perhaps nervous, tongue-tied, you don't know what to say around describing what it is that you do with your work. The purpose of an explanation conversation is exactly that. It is to explain what you do, how you do it, what you're up to, and that's it. And to ask the person who you're explaining it to ask you all the questions that come up. It's the purpose of it. Say, can I just tell you what I'm up to? Can I just say out loud what I do now? Can I describe my work to you, please? And your job is just to listen and ask me any question that comes up while we're talking. Let me show you kind of some details about explanation conversations. The purpose of explanation conversations is to practice describing your work. Saying, I am a coach. I just took a coaching certification. I just learned these new tools. Here's why I love it. It's to get comfortable telling people what you're up to. Saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. It's to field questions. Sit down with your partner or your sibling or your friend or the mail post person or your favorite barista or your neighbor and say, can I please just practice explaining what I do and have you ask, and just ask me any questions. I just want to know because it's scary and I just need to practice it. What's unclear? Okay, oh, all right, I should practice that again. It can be with your friends. It can be with family. It can be with peers. It can be with your barista. It can be with your neighbor. It could be with fellow coaches. It could be with whoever you want. But this is an exercise in asking for help. And if you struggle to ask for help, it's going to feel edgy. But if you don't practice saying things out loud, they get stuck in your throat. Every month in Misfit to Maverick, we have a class called Practice Talking About Yourself. And that is literally what we do. We get put in small breakout rooms and we go in circles talking about our strengths and our gifts and who we want to help and what we're up to and what makes us different. And it is edgy. And you can see the beautiful, unique gifts that you all have captured in your heart and that you know just struggle to come out. But guess what? That's why we have to practice it. And explanation conversations are your opportunity to just practice talking about your work. Let me see if I moved on here. Here's a little script. I will be sending you this, but here's an example of how you can ask someone, could we please chat for 10 minutes so I can practice describing my work to you? Your job is simply to listen and ask me any questions, as many questions that come up for you as I'm talking. That's it. Explanation conversations. You could have them today. I'm curious. I would love to know. Is anyone nervous about explanation conversations? I'm going to shift to gallery for a second. Like, is anyone, well, no, just put it in the chat because I can't see everybody. Heidi says yes. Great. Awesome. 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 See that? You're not alone, everybody. You are not alone. If you feel nervous about just saying, hey, I'm a coach, I got the certification, I don't know what I'm doing, but let me explain it. You're not alone here. Always nervous, right? I get it too. It used to be. Shirley's nervous. Again, this is if it's like, man, tell people about what I do. I don't know how to describe it. An explanation conversation project might be where you want to begin. All right, now we're going to move on to the fourth one, and then I'm going to take your questions about the 4 types. The fourth type of conversation, and those of you in Misfits to Maverick know this, it is the interview conversation. I love interview conversation projects. I love them. Because all you need, the only thing between you and interviewing someone is asking them if you can interview them. That's it. That's it. The only thing keeping you from talking to people is just saying, hey, can I interview you? I'm doing a little bit of research. I'm trying to get out of my head and into the world of the people that I'd like to help. Maybe you don't say that, but you could. People might think it was charming. Oh, cool. Interview conversations. So let me share you about these. All right, here's the deal with interview conversations. An interview conversation project is a project in listening and learning about other people. If you really want to get fancy, it's called market research. That's what it is. Because guess what? If we're not talking to people, we are trying to figure out what to do in our imaginations. And we're trying to plan out what coaching is and what through the lens of our own work and not through the eyes of the people who we want to help. Interview conversations get you out of your head and into the world of the people that you want to help. Here's a very important note. These are not coaching calls. And the intention is not to sell anybody on your coaching. Your job in interviewing is to stay curious and to listen and to receive. To just listen, to say, I want to understand this person. I want to hear what they are, what they're struggling with. I'm going to tell you some things you can listen for. You're going to learn about how they describe where they're at right now. What's going on with you right now? That's all you have to say. So what's going on with you right now? And they will just tell you. What do you wish was happening? What do you wish was happening? Well, I wish I was blank. I wish I was that. I wish I had these things. Why can't you get there? What's in your way? Oh, well, I have this, right? You're also going to notice where you're inspired. Are you inspired when talking to that person? Are you like, oh, I want to help them? Or are you like, oh, no, they're not. That's not it. That's not it. Thank you for talking to me. But in your mind, you're like, that's not where the spark is for me. Figuring out what you don't want is really valuable data. Let's say let's say you're like, I think I'd like to work with retired volleyball players. Okay, great. What do they need help with? I don't know. Maybe they need help. Like, listen, go talk to some volleyball players. Go interview 10 of them. Find 10 to interview. Okay, well, I guess I can talk to my buddies. I could talk to my former teammates. I'm part of a few groups. I can ask some people if they know some people. So you create these interviews. 5 of those people you're going to talk to and be like, yeah, they're not the people that I want to help. But another part of them, you're going to say, oh, that's the kind of person I want to help. And this is why, and this is what I could do. And this is really important. Interviewing someone is actually really helpful for them because you're giving someone the space to talk and they're going to know that someone is listening deeply to them. And it's very, very helpful. I know some of you on this call have been doing conversations. I wonder if you might in the chat just share, like, if you've noticed this. It's happened with me where if I'm interviewing, let's say I want to interview coaches and just start listening, at the end, it's just like, oh my gosh, thank you for listening. Thank you for just being curious and listening to my life. So but I don't want to sell them. I don't want it to be creepy, but this is where the intention comes into play. You're not trying to sell them anything. You're just doing some research. All right. So this is the note. I like putting this about interview conversations. Interview conversations help you. Ready? This is what happens when you start talking to people. I will be sending you these, do not worry. They help you figure out what problems you want to help solve in the words of your people. Oh, I help people become more self-aware. Are they saying that? Are your people saying, I want to become more self-aware? If they are, great. Or are they saying, I wish I didn't fight so much with my partner? Oh, right? It gets you into their world, not in your coaching world, which is great. We've got some beautiful coaching bubbles we're in, but it's breaking out of that. Interview conversations help you better describe who you want to help. They help you come up with new ideas for coaching experiences. I'm going to show you how all this works together. But if you're like, I don't know what to create, ask people what they want, what they're trying to make happen, and then design something that could help them with the problem that they tell you about. They help you write copy for your website. Very practical terms, because they'll give you all the language you need. They'll help you name your stuff. We call this their magic words or their song lyrics, lyrics that you hear over and over again. I led a class called How to Not Be a Coaching Clone. And the reason I called it that is because 3 coaches in 3 separate conversations all said to me, I feel like I'm becoming a clone. I was like, magic words. I'm going to make a class, right? I had interviews and I created an experience to solve what I heard in that interview. Oh, I'm going to do a class. It was free. No one paid me for it. How to not be a coaching clone. And then I went back and I invited those people to come. Helps you find ideas for upcoming workshops and classes. And it helps you create content that's truly helpful and inspired by real people. At the end of these conversations, you're going to have so many ideas. Oh, I could write a thing about that. I could record a podcast. Oh my gosh, they just gave me this idea. That's who I'm going to write to. And then you can thank them for the inspiration. I've been on conversations with people. They say, I think, oh my gosh, I have to record something about that. I hang up. The next day, I record a podcast and then I send them that podcast. I say, thank you for inspiring this topic. Here you go. All because you're talking to people. Now, I want to ask you to get your questions. I will get awesome. I see one of them. I'm going to take some questions now. Let's take a break. Lean back. Put your arms up. Whoop, whoop. What questions do you have about the types of conversations? And then I'm going to tell you how to set one up and answer some of the questions, including Itza Marie asked, how do you request or invite for an interview conversation? I'll be answering that. Questions about the 4 types of conversations. Heidi, I posted on Nextcore and got 3 responses. Awesome. Heidi, Heidi, was it you that listened to the podcast about conversation projects and went and started a conversation project? I can't see you because I'm not on gallery, but someone was like, I listened to the conversation. I went and started a conversation project. If you were going to do a conversation project, what kind of conversation would you start with? If you were going to leave here like, I want to do a conversation, would you practice with explanation conversations or interview conversations? Explanation, interview. Great. Julie shares the conversation project was the basis for the entire community setup. Loved it. It's amazing. And we'll talk, it's amazing how interview conversations can become clients. I'll show you how that works. Awesome. So doing interview now, we'll be adding explanation and interview. The cool thing about explanation is it can literally be with anybody. Explanation conversations can be with anyone. Interview conversations, and we're going to get to this, it's like, well, who do you want to interview? And then can you find them? And that's a kind of a different topic about, if you say, I want to work with retired volleyball players, and I say, well, find someone to interview, and it's like, I don't even know where they are. That's cool. It's just maybe a longer runway, right? Versus if you're in communities or you have networks of people that you're already a part of. Jean, she's a maverick. She wanted to work with people who are in retirement and that experience. And she ran a conversation project because she's already in a bunch of retirement groups. So she was able to go in there and say, hey, I'm doing some research. Is anyone free to talk? Can explanation be part of the interview conversation? Sure, Heidi, you can make it your own. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get to say, I'd like to practice just saying what I do. The catch is that you want to just be really clean that you're not trying to sell coaching on your interview conversations. The purpose of these is not to sell coaching. It's to just listen and learn. Now, I did say, I'm going to say this. I'm going to share. This is something I have to say. It is sometimes possible and not at all uncommon for interview conversations to become discovery call conversations. I have a working thesis that you can create clients simply by running interviews. But here's the little magic. You can't want it. You have to be really, really clear in your intention that the purpose of this is not to get over here. One of the things that I have learned that I suspect you have all learned in your life, that the harder we grasp something, the more it tries to break away from us. And the lighter we hold things and the less attached we are, the more it shows up. Okay, so, but let me tell you how this is possible. Let's say you want to work with retired volleyball players and you're like, I'm going to go find who are like trying to figure out next steps. You're part of some communities, you set up some interviews. You get on the phone with Sarah. You ask Sarah the questions, and I'll give you some ideas of what you can ask. And she now spends 20, 30 minutes just talking to you, and you're just listening. And you're staying very curious, and you're asking questions, and and at the end of those 30 minutes, because this is what happens when people have space to talk, right? All they need is space to talk and to be listened to. She goes, is this what you're doing right now? Do you help people with this? Right? Out of nowhere. Do you help people with this? Can you help me? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, and in that moment you say, yes, actually, this is what I'm doing, but we're just interviewing right now. But if you'd like more help, we can set time up for that. Or you say, would you like help with this? And she says, yes. And you say, well, let's set up another time to talk. Let's set up a discovery conversation to see what that could look like. Because that's not why we're here today. All right. I put this in a note to coaches, actually. It is fascinating what happens at the end of these. Either someone's like, all right, thanks. And you're like, thanks. You say bye. Or they say, this is great. Keep me posted. And then they're part of your fan club. Or they say, oh God, is this what you're doing? I need help with this. And then you're inviting them maybe into this next step. So these are really cool. Thank you, Miranda. All right, let's see. IBS. What's the best way to initiate interview conversations when you are still exploring who you want to work with? Well, that's the thing, IB, is that the interview conversations help you figure out who you want to talk to. So let me show you really quick how you can set these up. All right, this is going to be kind of the next phase of this. And I want to keep my eye on the time just to honor the time. I'm going to be staying for 90 minutes. I can stay past 1, but I want to make sure you get all the content before 1 and get to as many questions as I can. But I'll stick around to talk to all of you as long as you'd like up until 1:30. All right, so here's how you're going to design a conversation project. Are you ready? You can do this right now. You see a piece of paper. This is the next step. 1, decide what kind of conversations you want to experiment with. Just pick 1. I mean, you could pick 2. It doesn't, again, make this your own, but this is just a roadmap. You can tweak it. Explanation interview. If you've got a ton of discovery calls already on your calendar, maybe that's what you're playing with. If you're really full with coaching experiences, then you're practicing over in here. But if you're like, I don't have much scheduled yet, then maybe it's one of these that you can create today. You could start this today. Make it finite. Write down a number. How many people would you like to talk to? Now, when I'm talking to someone, I will say, I challenge you to interview 30 people. You can say yes, no, or renegotiate. So you can put down 5, you can put down 2, you can put down 100. Pick a number. How many people would you like to have a conversation with? The more, the better, because it's all research. Just gets more and more clear as time goes on. If you are doing interview conversations, it is helpful to think about who you would like to talk to. But, and this is getting to IB's question, this is very personal and depends on many other factors. Some of you are like, I don't know who I want to help. Some of you might be like, oh, no, I want to help people with chronic back pain who are in their 50s, right? Like the degree of clarity is different, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need to know who you want to help to start talking to people. But what might help, and IB, this could help you, is to think about this thing called the stadium question. Imagine that there is 100,000 people behind me and you are on a stadium. Okay, you're on a stadium, you're looking down at me. I'm like, hey, I've got all these random people around behind me, all ages, all gender, all everything just behind me. And you're like, great, I want to talk to 10 people. I want to interview 10 of those people out there. I'm like, great, do you just want me to randomly pick 10? I can just randomly pick 10. Here's an 18-year-old high school student struggling with where to go to college. Here's a 67-year-old gentleman who's been a trucker all their life and they want to open up their own, small business. Here's a woman in her 40s who's single, who's really struggling about what to do next, right? I think if you really say that, or I could filter some people out before I pick those 10. That's the stadium question. How do you want to filter those 100,000 people before I reach back and give you 10 of them? When you think about it that way, I think you're more clear than you all realize. Well, I only want to help people who are, I want to work with nurses. I'm looking at Karen. I know she has done work with nurses. Okay, great. A lot of people are going to leave the stadium. Do you want to work with male identifying, female identifying nurses? Do you want to work with, those who are close to retirement or those in the first years of nursing, right? So let yourself try and trim it down because it helps you get clear on who it is that you want to help. But this is something else you can do in the next step, is that chunk it up. Just start with 3 and then notice if you want to change anything. So let's say you're like, well, I want to work with people with back pain. All right, well, that's still pretty big. But if you're like, I don't know, find 3 people who have back pain, ask if you can interview them. And I guarantee at the end of those 3, you're going to be like, oh, wait, no. It's not just, okay. There's other things about them that qualify and can, so for the next 3, I'm going to get a little bit more specific. Then you've got to ask people if they'll talk to you. Once you've figured out how you want to do it, who it wants to be, you got to start extending invitations. You got to ask people. And when I extend invitations, I use a 50% rule. What that means is that if I want to talk to 3 people, I have to invite at least 6. Because half of them are going to say no, or they're never going to reply to me. I just go with that. I'm always doubling up. I want to get 5 clients. I probably have to have 10 discovery calls. I want to get 10 discovery calls. I got to somehow invite 20 people to have this, right? It's really get grounded in some numbers. It's fun. It's cool. It turns things into a project, but you've got to ask people. Social media posts count as 1 invitation. One of my mentors, John Morgan, said this to me once years ago when I was in his mastermind. It has stuck with me ever since. I'm like, oh, well, I'll go post about it on Facebook. He's like, that's 1. I don't care if you have 3,000 friends. Your Facebook post is 1 invitation. And you've got to slow down. You slow down to the level of the individual. Find people in your life who you know, who you can connect with, who you can ask, do you know someone? Can you help me? I'm doing a research project. I got to figure out kind of how I'm going to reach these people. Because I want to learn and I want to listen. You are limited only by your willingness to extend invitations. And hear the word no. It's so simple. But I know our brains are like, but wait, but what? I'm like, it's just start. If you're like, but I want to coach everybody, great. Then you can go ask everybody you know if you can interview them. You see what, like that? So, but I want to coach everybody. Okay, then go interview everybody. Go just pick 10 random people. I don't think you do, because I think, well, actually, I don't want to coach kids in high school. I don't want to coach this. All right, cool. What you don't know is just as important as what you do. All right, how do you invite people? Here's what you do, everybody, and I will send you these slides. You be a human. There is no secret. The secret is to just be nice and real. And to consider something like this, I will send this to you. You do not have to write it down. Hi there, Sarah. I'm writing to ask for your help. I'm doing some research and have challenged myself to interview 10 retired volleyball players to learn more about their experience and what's coming next. You came to mind as someone I'd love to learn more about. Are you game for a 20-minute chat this week? Both yes and no are perfect answers. Okay? I'm going to send this to you. It's coming your way. Don't try and scribble it down. Just think about it. Notice what's coming up. Are insights coming up? Are objections coming up in you? I'm turning to those. Remember, your intention is to listen and learn, not to coach or sell your coaching. But I'm going to tell you, there's this little thing that the minute you stop wanting that, the minute all of a sudden it's like out of nowhere. I'm going to stop for a second and see what questions have come up. Questions. Please post them in the chat. Kate shares, I want to interview people who want to feel better, which is way too broad. However, I know eventually I would like to help people navigate grief, but I don't feel ready for it yet, meaning I want more experience, not sure how to narrow it down. Well, you could, Kate, still interview people who've gone through grief. Again, here's the thing about interviews. There's nothing, you're just trying to learn. You just want to learn from them. I just want to learn about, so hearing like, I'd like to help people navigate grief. I think, so why not interview some people who've gone through grief? Why not? You're not trying, because you're not trying to help them or solve anything or position your work. I just want to learn about what that's like. And to notice what comes up in you when you are talking to them. Other questions. Sean, in all of this, we are surely coaching at every stage, and we should never sell. We don't need to. We coach. And if people want to have more experiences like the one you just helped for them, they'll be on board. No? All right. So Sean, you bring up an excellent point. Because I have heard someone said to me, like, so I'm not coaching, right? That question has lots of layers, because one, it depends on how you define coaching. How do you define what coaching is, which is a whole other class, which I've probably talked about, what the many hats a coach can wear. Also, all of these, you can be helping someone. All of them, you can be helping someone. If you feel stuck around coaching, just say, do you want to help? Yeah, I'd love to help people. Great. Then you can always just be holding this energy of like, I'd like to help. But there is a bit, so yes, Sean, I'm always, if I'm talking with someone and they're opening up to me and I'm listening, I will say, would you like help with that? Not because I want to sell them a package, but just because I'm like, oh, do you want, and they might say, yes, maybe we'll dig in a tiny little bit. Maybe I'll say, well, let's set some other time aside. You know, let's set some time aside. And actually, when I was doing my notes this morning, I kind of separated out this helping conversation from the discovery call conversation, because if you're talking with someone in an interview and they're really opening up about something and you're like, I can help them, you can say, would you like help with that? I'd like to set some time aside for you to help you. And they might say yes or no, but yes, please. And so you have one of these conversations, which is more you're wearing your coaching hat, but you know, a little, perhaps not at the place of like, oh, well, it's conditional on that we continue or not. Because as Sean's pointing out, and as I've learned, when you, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like when you don't offer it, people ask about it. It's very interesting that way. When you don't try and like sell your thing, someone will say, oh, so tell me about what you're up to. Is this your work? This was great. Thank you so much for helping me. Can we do this more? Oh, well, maybe, yeah, but let's have a discovery call, right? You kind of, these kind of start to dance in these really cool ways. Sean, I don't know if that answered your question. I'd be curious to know what you hear in that. For interview conversations, how leading to be with the topic? You mean like, Kalita, can you just retype that? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. So I want to get to it though. Do you mean like, do you set the agenda for what you're going to be talking about? All right, I'm going to get to that interview questions, Kate. That's awesome. All right, Lee asks, if your current circle of people is very small, could you ask neighbors and a couple of friends to do exploration combos with them? And that, yes, Lee, go for it. Talk to people. The whole thing here is like, how do we get into talking with people? Because when we talk to people, all kinds of things become more clear. The main word of the topic. So, Kalita, when I think of interview, I don't think of having a topic. I'm not setting a topic. I'm just saying, I just want to hear all about you. Now, if I said, I want to interview people who are in burlesque, let's say, right, Kalita, which I know is part of your work. So I might ask questions about that particular part of your life to kind of focus it in a little bit, to learn more about the journey. For those of you too, thank you, Nicole. For those of you in Misfit to Maverick, there is a course on this. Don't forget that gives you a framework for the kinds of questions that you can be answering. For those of you on the call, I want to share with you just a few ideas about what kinds of questions to ask when you do these interviews. Again, if you have to leave, I hope you can stay, but if for some reason you have to go, all of this will be coming out with the replay. So what do I ask? All right, here's the thing about what to ask, because I'm gonna kind of like disappoint you, but also hopefully open it up a little bit. I'm not going to give you a list of questions to ask. What I'm going to do is share with you what I hope you can answer when the interview is over. Okay? So at the end of when you're talking with someone, try and see if you can answer these questions. 1, were you drawn to help that person? Did you even want to maybe bring them over into this space? I love this one. This is one of my latest ones. If for any of you who like enjoy tarot, if that person were a tarot card, how would you describe it to me? Now, again, I have a tarot deck here, but like when you see a picture in tarot, it's like seeing that picture means something when you study it. You kind of get to know it and what it means and what it stands for. I think every person you talk to is kind of like their own tarot card. And if you really loved that person, it's like, why? How would you describe it so that I could maybe go find someone for you, like that. So these are the characteristics of the person that you want to reach and why you liked them. How do they describe what's happening now in their life? So Kalita, this is kind of getting to where it's not so much a topic, but depending on the focus that you want to learn about, you might say, what's happening in your, now that you're retired from volleyball, what's happening in your nursing career, what's happening, right? You can tailor these to the topic that you're interested in. How do they describe what they want to be happening? Tad Hargrave talks a lot about Island A and Island B. Like, what do they want? And why do they want it? Oh, I'm retired from volleyball. I'm just sitting around. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm so confused. Well, what do you wish was happening? Oh, I wish I had a purpose. I wish I knew what was going on. I wish I woke up feeling energized every day. Why do you want that, right? Get them to really explain it to you. What do they think is in the way? This is the problem. Why can't you do that? I just don't know where to begin. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. Hear the magic words? I'm just so confused. All my friends are out there doing cool stuff and I'm just sitting at home watching Jeopardy every night. You hear that? That's in their world. Oh, how do I help them get off the cat, right? It suddenly makes your work take shape. What words do they use to describe their problems? What phrases are you hearing repeated over and over and over? Okay, these are the kind, if at the end of your call, you want to be able to answer stuff like this. I don't give you a list of questions because then you're saying, okay, so what is that? But you're like, oh, I want to know what's happening now, where they want to be, what journey they want to go on, what they think is in the way, what their problems are. And if I even like that person, not like them, you're going to like them all, but like, are you like, oh, I mean, I have done interviews where I'm just like, I have got to work, like, I don't know when or where, but if the time's ever right for you, can we please work together? And I just say that, and I'm very clean about it. I'm like, it's cool if it's not a fit, but I just have to let you know. And then this is where things get really fun. Well, I mean, it's all really fun because you're talking to people. But everything that comes out of these interview conversations helps you think about what kind of experiences you can create to help them. right? You get ideas for experiences you can create. You can go out and you can say, oh, I'm going to record something, or I'm going to come up with something to help that person that you can then circle back. And it becomes this really beautiful cycle that is starting because you are willing to ask people if they'll spend some time with you. Let me take a look at what, feel free to post some questions here. I like the idea of moving from interview to discovery call, and it makes sense that we're always helping, and that people, if they have a powerful experience, are likely to ask, how do I get more? 100%. If not tarot, perhaps a comic book, super, exactly. It's just like, how would you describe this person that you want to connect with? This has been great. Thanks, Heidi. Questions. I made it to 102. I think I was done with, let me just make sure. I think I hit on the kind of all the stuff that I wanted to share. Yeah. There we go. Questions, everybody. I really like flipping wanting to know the questions to what can I answer when the interview is over. I think that's really important, IB, because some people, you know, I've been in that place. I'm like, just tell me what questions to ask. I have lists of questions like I've printed out, right? I'm like, I'll just study these. I think I actually have little note cards way back in my desk. It's like, great coaching questions, but something about, can I answer this at the end? Because it allows you to be much more present. And it's also really helpful to think about, like you're drawing a map. I like, when I'm talking to someone, I like to think about, all right, where are they now? Where do they want to be? What do they think is in the way? And do I want to help them get there? Am I the right fit for them? It all starts to inform itself. Is anyone willing to come off mute and maybe share with me what's coming up? I want to know what questions are. If you're like, oh, but, or if you're not alone in that, or if you're feeling energized or you have an idea that you want to share, I'm happy to spend a few minutes with those of you who are feeling like you want to explore and play a little bit. These classes are very energizing for me, like the teacher hat, but it's also hard for me because as a relator, I really want to know all of you. So what do you need? What do you guys need out there?
I'm going to open my mouth, if that's okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you, Sean.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Thank you for hosting this. And
oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, it's great. So I was just like thinking about the everything but coaching, and then coaching, and kind of, I suppose those two for me bleed into one another very much. And I think, you know, before, like we've been training for a year and we're just at the end of our course now.
Yeah.
And in the first 6 months of training, I was having conversations with people about what I was passionate about, why I was taking on coaching, why I was becoming a coach, you know, what things were important to me, you know, and that was kind of the describing of what coaching is. But it was also laying the foundations for the business of coaching, the
yes.
everything but coaching. I wasn't coaching. I was just having conversations about coaching.
Yes. And
I think for me, it's like, this is a personal reflection on me, but I've got to revisit that passion and that sort of impetus to go and have conversations with people, because lots of those people that I had conversations with, I've subsequently coached because they've been interested. Oh, so
right.
What is it? And, you know, I've had practice clients from them with them. And so I think that reflection is like, it's blending those two together.
Yeah.
The business or the everything but coaching is still part of me being a coach. You know, I've spent the first 20 years of my career doing one thing, and the next 20 years I want to be a coach.
Yeah.
And it's not like coaching on one day and then everything but coaching on the next day. It's like the two are blended. So I just wanted to kind of say that, really. And I think that's got to happen at all the time. In everything that I do, I live and breathe being a coach.
Yes. And that, what you're describing is what I was trying to capture. And what really stuck with me this morning is because, you know, you guys see my notes to coaches, you hear me talking. I think I can sound like this everything but coaching thing. I'm like, no, never. We all are. I suspect for most of you, this is not a hobby. This is something that you want to create into a means of getting paid, of becoming a career, whatever that financial path that you have laid out. And everything but coaching stuff can be very valuable there. Again, what tool, how can a website serve us? How do we communicate with people when there are more than 10 or 15 people that want to email with us and set up a list, right? I love talking about those things. We talk about them in Misfit to Maverick. I enjoy those conversations. And sometimes trying to figure all of that stuff out trumps just staying in conversation with people, which is where, again, if we're not talking to people, then I don't think we're really in our work, right? We're thinking about our work. We're imagining the people we want to work with instead of talking to them. And I believe that getting good at talking to people is also a practice. If you guys all said to me, my calendar is full of unpaid coaching, Allegra, that is an incredible problem to have. Master that, great. Because every single stage of that takes practice. And Sean, I really appreciate you describing that synthesis, and I want to honor that, because I am more, I put this talk to your people in front of everything but coaching, because I do believe that the everything but coaching, the website, the copy, the niche, all of that stuff, the marketing is informed by when you actually talk to people. And because when you're talking to people, you're doing your work, and that's where you find your voice, and that's where you figure out who you want to help, which then helps, right? All of the other stuff. But it is a dance. It's definitely a dance. And I'm trying to bring this person back onto the dance floor, because it really, really feels in the coaching industry like the spotlight is on this all the time. All the time is on this. And then it's like, but wait. Why are we just talking to people? We can learn so much from them. Thank you, Sean, for sharing. That's awesome. Please, for those of you who are having insights, please share them in the chat. Remember, if insights and next steps, I'm really curious if any of you have to go. Kalita.
Yay, thanks, Allegra. I think starting with my email list is the good place for the interview questions.
Sure.
And I just want to couch it just to say, hi, I love you and I want to know you. Schedule like that open.
Yes.
Open. Okay.
Perfect.
You found that. That's okay. All right.
Listen, if can I say one little tip? I'm going to throw a just tiny little strategic tip out.
Please.
This is for all of you. This is something that I've learned over the years, that when you're asking something for someone, get their permission at every step of the way. If I was going to email my email community and say, hi, I would like to interview as many of you as I can. These are not sales calls. I want to do some research. I want to get to know all of you and hear what you're up to. They are not sales calls. In fact, I will send you a $5 Starbucks card so you can buy yourself a coffee and we can have coffee together, because that's how it's going to feel. Some people do that. Some people like to try and, just to kind of sweeten it a little bit. Would you be game for a quick chat with me? Both yes and no are perfect answers. Send it. Wait till they respond yes before sending them a link to schedule. Separate it. Ask if they'd like to talk. When they say yes, say great. The easiest way is to set something up here, because it's fun. It's fun for me to try and get permission. Would you like the link? Would you like to see it? It just kind of, when someone says, yeah, I'd like to see it, there's an energetic kind of permission. Yes, I would like to set something up with you. Okay, great. Here's the way to do it. Does that make sense?
It does. May I ask, to me, research lands as not personal.
Make it your own.
I'm looking for language that feels both true and is resonating, and I'm just not. Yeah, just to say, I want to interview. It is research, but somehow that word, maybe some other people have ideas to call it something other than research.
Yep.
But it seems too amorphous just to not give it at least just a certain amount of narrowness of To give them a sense, it's not just, this is for me because I fall into just straight out personal conversation so easily that if I just get on the phone with them, I do know many of them and I love them. And we could just end up having a hi, how are you?
Yes.
So I want to give it enough structure, but keep it personal, which feels very much like a Three Bears thing.
I understand. I know.
Okay.
And this is to, the language, if any of you have any language to share. Also, Kalita, you can bring this into Misfit to Maverick. I encourage you to do a post about this and we will help you workshop it. We will help you with the email and stuff. You are not alone in figuring this out. So if we can't get to it here, this is a bazillion% a question to bring there that will
You'll tell me maybe in there where to put it. You don't have to right now.
Yes, you will for sure. I'm putting a few words up. What I appreciate about what Kalita shared was that she's like, I don't like the word interview or research. I'm like, that's great. That's an insight. I love it. She's like, it's not that word. Awesome. It doesn't have to be my words. It can be whatever. I'd like to get to know you. I'm trying to learn more about blank. I'm studying a little bit. We can play with the words there. Let's see what other questions. Feel free to raise your hand if you would like to, or you can go ahead and post it. Sean succeeded just by unmuting, which I love too. It's not like everybody's like trying to chime in at once, so feel free to unmute. Let's see. Julie says, I stayed in everything but coaching for a couple of years and I realized that I wasn't coaching or having conversations with people. It was kept me frustrated. Once I started having conversations, I actually started coaching. Now the everything but coaching stuff flows naturally. So again, this goes back to what Sean was saying, it is a marriage. There is a dance there, but if the conversation is happening, that's where the magic is. Thank you, Karen. I was always nervous to do this conversation project, and last Friday something shifted. I was surprised with my results. I texted 12 nurse friends and 100 said yes, and I had 6 conversations. And Karen, I can only imagine the insights that are coming out for you. Please come share them. Christy had an insight. I have a belief that this must be uncomfortable. I want to definitely take a look about that. Kalita, check in. Thanks, Julie. Please post your insights in your logbook. All of you Mavericks that are here, open up that logbook, put your insight and next step, make it right. Hold on to what's sticking. Thank you, IB. Think about what I want to know as a result of the conversation rather than what I want to ask. Yes, intention, Lacey, and starting with an explanation conversation since they feel awkward to me. We are here to help you, Lacey, too. It's Marie, I see your hand. Hi.
Hi. I wrote something on the chat, but I thought it was worth sharing with everybody here. I think that sometimes we spend a lot of time doing everything but coaching because it feels like a safe space to be a security blanket. Because the minute we think about talking or talk to people, it becomes real and it can be a scary space to be because we are putting ourselves out there. It feels vulnerable. And just to think about the possibility of being rejected or not having a good chemistry with the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Feels, especially if you're introverted, you might want to spend more time like in the everything but coaching for a long time, but that's not really where the coaching happens. So I just wanted to put it out there.
I appreciate that so much, It's Marie. And I think you likely are echoing perhaps what Christy is feeling and was suggesting about it, like this could be uncomfortable. So here's a little tip. You can practice with people you know and trust already. Like if the idea of like asking people to talk and having these conversations, explanation conversations, you can start with people you know. Because the purpose is to practice. This is so important. If the intention is to create clients and we're like, well, I can't coach this, I can't talk to, but if it's like, I just want to practice and I just want to practice talking to people and listening, then you can kind of turn to those who are already in your space, who you have some rapport with, who you can be a little vulnerable with, say, okay, I just want to kind of practice running this. I'd like to just ask some questions. Again, for those of you in Misfit to Maverick, the questions are kind of there. We're there to help you kind of set all of that up. But don't feel like you've got to like jump off the deep end and find some stranger, right? Where there is a gray zone between like not talking to anybody and finding someone you've never spoken to before and like making yourself totally exposed to them, that I think is really important to keep in mind. I mean, the first workshop that I ran was literally to my best friend and 2 sisters-in-law in my living room. I said, can you just come over so I can run my workshop and just ask me all your questions and then give me your feedback? Because I needed that kind of safe space so that I didn't get nervous. And listen, I still get nervous. I don't know if for those of you who saw in the events, I'm nervous before all of these classes. Thank you, it's Marie. Oh, Heidi struggles with describing to people what coaching is. Ooh, that sounds like an explanation project. Also, describing coaching, I don't disagree with you. People are like, what's coaching? It's like, oh, but we all find our own answers, right? Just practice saying it in different ways, describing it. Cheryl, not just imagining who we're talking to, but actually talking to them. Oh, Cheryl, we need to get out of our heads and into the world of our people. Krista, I see your hand up. Hi. I can't hear you. There you go.
My mic.
That's okay. Hi.
Hi. So I guess the only thing is that I thought I contributed. I know a couple of people are like, what do I ask? What do I ask? What do I ask? And it's so easy to let our brain get stuck in like, I don't know the right perfect question to ask people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the Misfit, for those in Misfit to Maverick and the conversation project, I think there was like a couple questions. I loved what you said, Allegra. And then I was going to just kind of offer up that thinking about, you can go really general and broad, but just kind of like if you are a person who's curious about people, like what do you want to know about them? And kind of like, it's almost like starting with like, what are the challenges, like broadly, and you can tweak it for you, like what are the challenges you're going through it, and like what's going on, like what do you want to do? There was another question I had too, like what do you know you want to do but you're not doing, or what scares you, or what would really freak you out if you were doing it. It was just sort of like curiosity, and they were just stepping off point, honestly. I didn't necessarily hit every question and every conversation because I think I did close to 20 last fall, but it was just a way to get people talking.
Yes.
And it was really fascinating. I think one of the other ones, like sometimes, like for my group, it's a lot of times midlife women. So like one of the ones that was sort of interesting was what lights you up. Some people are like, don't remember anymore. You know, like what lights you up, what scares the crap out of you. You know, it's just a way, you know, like one person I said, do you have any dreams? And they were like getting their kids all ready for college and they hadn't thought about themselves in forever. So it's just, you know, thinking about your person and kind of like, if you have an idea of what they might be going through, but you want more information, like what might help you get a little deeper.
I love that.
Once they start talking, it's so rich. And then you can, and then sometimes I throw out the questions because once they start talking, then I'm like, oh, there's something else. Like, oh, tell me more about that.
Right.
You know, so it's just a conversation.
If you like
it is. People, it gets easy. It's just like the first few moments.
Krista, thank you for sharing that. And Lee noted it too. And that staying curious. I think a lot of times we don't take action when we're in our own heads. And I've been saying lately, it's like, if you can help someone, this is helpful. Giving someone the space to talk for 20 minutes is very helpful to them because they're like, oh, no one's asked me these questions ever. And like, that's great. Allie, I'm sorry if I didn't see your hand earlier.
No, you're good.
Awesome.
I just wanted to say something about time, and this is something that we've talked about in the course before. And because I've been with Sean and Clara and Kristen for a year now.
Yeah.
And just letting it evolve and not be in a rush. And Sean, we've talked about this before. And I remember Sean from early on in the course and just watching him grow over this last year. And just letting it learn. And that's one of the things that another friend of mine said is her word is fingerprint.
Yeah.
And that's what we bring to this. We all learn the same thing. We're all coming from, you know, different places, but what we add is our unique.
So beautiful.
Thing.
The word that I just used to describe that is emergence. And I suspect, Allie, that you'll really, I know you're a gardener, right? So it's like, you know what you can control and what you can't control. And you can plan all you want for some flower bed, but it's not till it starts, you don't really know what's going to happen until it's happening. And it's just such a release, I think, this idea of what's going to happen will emerge. And I believe that your coaching will emerge out of the time you spend in conversation with people.
And as far as gardening, it's not always going to work.
That's right. Exactly.
Things are going to die and you don't have any control over it. And
That's
you just
right.
have to go, all right, well, what happened? Either I move on or I figure out if I really wanted that. Well, some things just don't work.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so grateful for your perspective and that energy. I think it's just going to be really neat to, because you see, how we do anything is how we do everything. And I think your relationship with the natural world is going to inform this too, this new experiment and project too, because you'll be able to really, you can detach yourself from it, not in like a, oh my gosh, like what happened, but oh, what can I learn from that? Why didn't those flowers bloom? Maybe next time I'll try this. There's an experimental energy around being in the world and gardening in particular that we have to just try and see what works and learn. So I really appreciate that perspective. It's awesome. Oh, I'm so excited. I don't know if any of you, by the way, we have a few more minutes. If anyone has questions about Misfit to Maverick at all, feel free to ask them here. We're kind of towards the tail end, but I want to get as many questions in as I can about conversation projects. All I know is a few of you are here. I know we're joining in May, and I'm just like, I'm so excited. All right, Karen, hi.
Well, I just wanted to share, just want to piggyback what Krista was saying. Like, I know a few coaches were asking what questions to ask. And like, for me, I was surprised that I got 100% result with what I sent. Like, nurse, well, for me, I know I wanted to help nurses, and I know well-being and burnout's really one of the challenges there. So I just told them, like, I'm creating a pilot program to support nurses. And I was wondering if you have 15 minutes for a phone call or Zoom. And if you've ever experienced stress, overwhelm, burnout, I'd really value your feedback. And if that sounds good to you, let me know. And I just text that message, and 12 said, yeah, out of 12 said yes.
Karen!
I know. And it was like, I was saying, like, I know, like that line between coaching, and it was just really being about them. Like, what are your challenges? What else did I ask them? And they shared, and of the challenges that you've experienced, like which one's the biggest priority? And I shared that, and then I share them, like, like my plan, because I have an 8-week program I have in mind, and I share the topics I wanted to talk about, and I asked them, like, what other topics would you want to see? And I just listened to what they had to say, and I even asked, what price range would you be willing, if this is a serious problem, like, what's the price range that you want? So I even now have an idea how to price. So.
Karen, this is really exciting. Are you gonna, now Karen's illustrating something really interesting. Here's how this could potentially work. You do these interviews with people, you come up with an idea of an experience you'd like to create, and you could invite those same people if they would like to pilot it with you. I love the word piloting, by the way. It sounds really fun and like we're going to try taking off a spaceship. It's like, right? So it becomes this kind of machine. You interview people about, Karen interviewed nurses. She has all these ideas. She's now going to create a coaching experience, right? Experience. She's going to pilot it. She can now go ask those 12 people, hey, would you like to be in the pilot? Both yes and no are perfect answers. So you kind of are like creating your own ecosystem of people that you can then serve with the work that you're creating. And I also want to flag this too. I'm hoping Heidi comes back and maybe watches that, because she was asking, can you combine them? What you're illustrating, Karen, is that you can. You had conversations combining explaining something, asking and interviewing them, getting specific feedback on a program that you're thinking about. I mean, anything is possible. And I suspect they said yes, because they, even just as you were describing it to us, it wasn't this like, it was just genuine and kind. This is what Kalida's is. Kalida can do this too. It's like, there's no hidden agenda here. Here's honestly what I'm doing. If you want to, are you willing to talk? Both yes and no are fine. And I love that you've had that experience, Karen.
Took months to even get over that. I'm like, are you know how scared I was to do this conversation?
I know, but look what happened.
I know.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, don't worry about it. Candace, come on up.
Okay, hey, hopefully, can you hear me?
I do. Is that a little person with you?
Yeah, she
Hi.
just hit her head, so hopefully
Hi.
she stays good. Anyway, I was just wondering, so some ideas are texting people that you have their phone numbers, email lists that you already have. If I have an email list, they've already worked with me.
It depends on if it's something new
I
that
don't-
you're thinking about.
And yeah, so, okay.
What's
Do you have
your
any other
idea?
ideas? I mean, I guess you just walk up to someone, some Joe Blow. Well, so I already have a couple of programs that I'm doing,
Okay.
but I also am thinking about doing another program. So it would be really easy to take that for a new program. But the ones that I already have established, I feel are really good, and I just would love to keep filling them up. So my problem has always been accessing people that I don't know.
Well, yeah, and that kind of could become a offshoot conversation that one of the things that I like to say is tend to the garden you've already planted. And now I have to go garden. Is tend to the garden you've already planted. I think we get in the habit of like, I need to meet new people. In order to like do this, I got to meet new people and meet new people. So then we start to think about how do we meet new people? And then the coaching industrial complex comes in and is like, here's how you do it by doing all this other stuff that isn't actually talking to anybody. So I would be more curious, and we can talk, feel free to like Vox me or email me, and we can keep workshopping this a little bit because I want to hear more about it, because I'm like, I want to hear all about it. But if we don't have time here, I would be more interested in what could be possible for you to uncover and create and discover and learn with the people that you're already connected to, because they are the garden that they've already said yes to you. They've said yes to getting your notes. They've said yes to working with you in some cases. And I just find that soil is so much more fertile, not in a productivity, who's gonna, what, but just like, there's some really beautiful stuff that can be learned there that's already in front of you that you don't have to like go meet a stranger. So, again, if you want, send me more about kind of what it is that you're working on, and I'll help you kind of back and forth a little bit to see where.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
How do I send it to you?
Well, you can email me. So the email that the link came, just hit reply. All of the emails you guys get come straight back to me. It's literally me like reading them and writing them. So you can email me, or I'll include in the email I send this afternoon with the Misfit to Maverick stuff, I'll include my Voxer information. You can Vox me.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think you're really onto something. I really felt that strong. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming, Candace. I appreciate you being here. I hope it's been helpful.
Sorry for the.
Oh, please, it's all good. Someone, as a fellow parent, I know what it's like. Sean, thank you, Sean. I'm grateful for your contributions. I appreciate your notes. I appreciate you showing up and coming to class, and yeah, everyone for being here. And this is what happens now. This is when I'm like, I know it's 1:30, but does anyone else need anything? Thanks, Michelle. I'm so glad that this has been helpful. We are here to help you. If there's stuff you want to keep workshopping, bring it into Basecamp. We're there to keep chatting about it. Are there any final questions? Everyone's like, bye, Kalita. Hi, Clara. I didn't see you here before, but I know I've finally come to gallery, and I'm so excited to be connecting with some of you this May. And thanks to all of you awesome people who have been here today for this class and conversation and contributing. And again, for those of you, you can bring any and all questions and brainstorming back into Basecamp anytime. We're here to help you. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you being here so much. All right, everybody. See you all soon. You're all awesome. Talk to everyone.